a lot of the stuff in the daytime, and I like doing stuff with her. She's just like you. I see all the pictures of you and your wife. She's my best friend, so she's the one that I spend the time with. And it's time. We're actually
we're live. I always do this. Yeah, I always go live right in the middle of conversations. But just because I always find it awkward going live when you go tell somebody we're going live, and then you gotta kind of pause. I don't like that. I just usually do it right in the middle of conversation. So it's always weird when people are watching my live stream that they're going, "What did I miss? What was the first part of that conversation?" But that's okay.
Son of a.
Yeah, I am. No, but what you were saying, as far as one of my favorite things is I enjoy when me and my wife get to travel together. That's like, not that we're like super busy, but our work schedules sometimes are on the opposite end. Where like right now she's at work. She went in this morning. She'll get out at 2:30, but I got to be at work at 2. So sometimes when our schedules match up that way, it'll almost be 3 or 4 days where the only time we're together is when we're sleeping in bed, and that's it. Yeah. And so it's nice to be able to get those nice little getaway weekends, or just where you can just, even though it's not very far. Like this weekend, we went up to Big Bear up there in by San Bernardino Mountains, and I've never been there. I lived in Southern California my entire life and had never visited. And it wasn't until I left California that now I'm going back to see what it's like.
I've heard about it, and I've never been there either. I've never been to. I've been to Anaheim, to Disneyland and stuff like that, and but that's about it. I haven't been through a lot of California. That's all.
You've been to Payson and you've been to Show Low and all that, right?
Arizona. I've been all over Arizona. Yeah.
It's not really that different, except it's higher elevation. That's the only difference.
But I haven't been there. Like the Mogollon Rim is one of my favorite places in the world. I love when we lived in the valley. I lived on the east side. Mesa, Tempe, Scottsdale. Heading up to the Mogollon Rim was always exciting. Just getting up into the Ponderosa Pines and just absolutely loved it. And I do miss it. Especially in March when we've got 4 foot of snow. And it's 10 degrees out, and there in Arizona it's like 75, 80 degrees maybe. So that's the time I miss it. Oh, I said I was going to save the temperature because I know that even though you guys have busted out of your heat wave, it's still friggin' hot.
It's 92. It's 92 and it's 9 o'clock in the morning.
It's noon here and it's 64 degrees.
Yeah. Well,
with a breeze and it's been sprinkling all day, so it's beautiful.
Like I said, we got a little break from this. It was so it's always funny when you live in a place that is so hot, and the opposite goes too. When people live in areas that are extremely cold, they always laugh at people when they mention, "Oh, it's really cold," and it's maybe like 40 degrees outside, and they're and people from the cold regions are going, "Well, it's just a nice spring day."
Yeah.
Well, we were up there, and everybody was complaining because I think it was like 83 degrees up in Big Bear, and it's like, "Oh, it's really hot." We're having this heat wave. Me and my wife are just kind of looking at each other. We're enjoying it. We're walking out of the, down their they have a little shopping area and stuff like that. And everybody's eating ice cream and trying to drink cold drinks. And we're like, man, this is beautiful weather. But again, we're leaving 110. So that's almost 30-degree difference. I mean, it's going to feel real nice.
You definitely get acclimated. Again, having lived in Arizona, I've lived in the Midwest. Now I'm currently in upstate New York. You definitely do get acclimated to those temperatures. I remember same exact thing. We left Arizona to come do a month-long vacation to decide where to move. We knew we were moving, had to figure out where. And we got to upstate New York. Same exact thing. It was 82 degrees, and they were all just complaining. And I was like, wow, this is nice, So. But now 10 degrees from our average temperature is we don't get 0 degrees here very often where I live because the lake keeps us, I live right on Lake Ontario, so the lake keeps us warmer than the surrounding environment, right? Like if you go into the Adirondacks where the Farrell family live, they will oftentimes see -10, -15. We rarely see the -10. So it's usually about 10 is our usual low low for the winter time, but most time it's in the 20s. It's not horrible, not horrible. But in Arizona, 20 degrees, holy,
Yeah, that's the end of the world if it gets down to 20s down here.
Yeah.
Something really bad happened. Like I said, our winters at the very coldest that it'll ever get, and it's always just like maybe 30 minutes to an hour right before the sun comes up, and he's usually like around 6:30 or so, where you have that. I guess it's the inversion of that's switching over, where it'll get down maybe to the high 30s, But it's like I said, it's less than an hour. It's not long enough to freeze anything.
Yeah.
Most nights, our winter nights are average maybe high 40s, mid 40s. For us, but then again, everybody laughs at us because it gets down to 50 and we're breaking out jackets. And I'm not talking about like a little light jacket. We're wearing them. The big old down jackets, and it's like the snowbirds are looking at us like,
yeah,
you guys are pathetic.
Well, I moved to Arizona from Chicago, and I was a kid. I was about 12 or so, and that first winter, exactly what you're describing. I was wearing, it was Christmas time, and I'm wearing shorts and sandals, and people are all like, covered, and oh, it's so cold, yeah. Yeah. You got a lot of people here in the chat. Hi, everybody.
I know. Let me take a little bit of a minute to say hello to everybody. I was expecting a lot of people to come here, especially because you being my guest today, but we'll get into that a little bit. So first of all, I want to thank Bunny Viper for being the very first one to be here with us. I guess she said she's going to be lurking for today. So she's got some things going on. Aquarium Delirium. Yes.
Real quick, let me interrupt you. I'm sorry. Ivy has a birthday coming up like tomorrow or the next day. Her birthday is very soon. And it's Oink Master Supreme's birthday today. Somebody else tomorrow, too, and I forgot who it was. You can find that information on fishfam.link. But happy early birthday to Ivy. She's one of the amazing people in the Fish Fam. And to Oinky if she happens to watch the replay or something. Okay, sorry. Didn't mean to
happy birthday. No, that's great. Aquarium Delirium, thank you. Eric Wyrock, thank you for being here. Aquatic Moose, thank you very much. Jay from the Nano Aquarium Guy, thank you. Jesse, Corridor Vocali, thank you very much. Jeff Pelham Aquatics is here, thank you. Bionic Bigfoot, thank you for being here. Tommy, Silver Creek Aquatics, thank you for being here. Atkins Nature, that's Ian, right? He changed his logo.
Oh, I didn't even see it. Is Eakin here? Eakin's. I sent you an email too, by the way, buddy. If that's
that's Ian.
Oh, there he is. Yep, I see him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jimmy P, thanks for being here. Can't wait till you start streaming again, man. And B Whistle, thank you for being here. John from My Fish Aquatics, thanks for joining us. Let's see who else that I haven't. Oops, pushing buttons. Hopefully, I don't kick us off. All right, Todd, TJ, Autocross. Let's see, and we got Whip. Thank you for coming in. Barbara Jackson, thank you for being here. And Leon, is it Leon at Aquarium Magic?
Lane, I think.
Lane. That's right. That's a relatively new. Is that somebody that's kind of new to the community? Because I haven't really seen that name before.
I believe so. I'm not familiar with Lane either. And hi there, Lane. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, one of the, I'm a little bit excited today because it's very not very often that I actually get to have a one-on-one conversation with you, and it's one of those things where I was really looking forward to this stream because we get to talk. A lot of times we'll interact either through emails or it'll be on the chat, but it's never really the same when you actually get an opportunity to speak to somebody. And I know I'm not the only one to say this, but there's a lot of things that have to go your ways because I have a big appreciation for what you do because of the way that you do your focus-ons and the way you're very welcoming, it's allowed us to really been able to connect with each other. You have been a very pivotal person in the community because you allow a lot of new people to come in, and Elaine being one of the perfect examples of that.
I was wrong, interrupting you again. I'm sorry. Coro did say that it's a capital I, not an L. So,
Okay.
Yeah. I-E.
Yeah, but yeah, but like I said, that's for me. That's a new name. I haven't really seen it. I think the first time I saw him again was on one of your streams. That I think I've seen it come up a couple of times, unless it's somebody that changed their name. Yeah, they gave us a thumb up and a star. but a lot of us really have met because we've been watching your streams. The stuff that you're very welcoming, which is really cool, because it makes us feel real comfortable. And you're one of the few that actually has created a platform for a lot of us to be able to come on when we're relatively new, and been able to use your platform to help us grow and connect with other people. And for that, I've always wanted to personally meet you in person and say thank you. But since this is the second best thing, I just want to say thanks for everything you do. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels that way.
Well, there's a lot of people in the community that do community building. It is important to me. So thank you, first of all. It's always hard for me to hear that kind of stuff, because I don't feel like I'm doing anything. This is just who I am. I'm not doing it. It's not hard for me, right? It's not like I'm putting any effort into it. It's just who I am. I do inclusion and diversity is very important to me in all aspects of my life, all the way around. I believe we need to bring people together. And then by doing that, you get to know people. So my interview streams are all about getting to know people. We've got a lot of people in the community who do great, informative fish videos, but I don't feel like there's a lot of people that just do these types of interviews. So I do appreciate the thanks. I don't think to me, it's not that big of a deal. And there's a lot of people in our community that do a ton of things, even behind the scenes. Sometimes you don't even know about it. There's so many people I could tell you about that don't want it out there known what they have done. So many names, people that have done things in the background that aren't looking for kudos. They're not looking for anything other than just to help somebody. Tons of people in our community. So thank you. It's super important to me. I love doing it. And there's a selfish factor there too, because I love this community. It's done a lot for me. I'm a retired person. I can't afford to give back monetarily. I'm not even a member of your channel. There's so many channels that I would love to be a member of, but I just don't have the funds to do it. So the only way I can give back is by, interviewing people and saying hi and making sure everybody's included.
Well, and going to that, you don't need to have memberships. I mean, there's just, I think the stuff that people can do, the bare minimum, just like I said, do the like and do the share. That goes a long ways for a lot of channels. I mean, I was reluctant to activate the members on this thing just because I could. YouTube would just every other day would send me an email. Hey, you need to finish doing the process for this and that. And I was like, I'll do it. For whatever just to kind of get them off my back, but I'm not expecting any memberships, because I'm like you. I tell them, I straight up, I don't have really anything extra to offer. I don't have the time to begin with. So the only thing that I can give back is these conversations that I do have with the people that I want to have those conversations with, and share them with somebody else. But that's about it. I mean, not that you're going to learn how to do anything special from me. The stuff that I know is pretty much what everybody in this chat section has already gone through or knows. So it's not like I'm providing any relevant new information.
Yeah, I'm with you. We have that in common for sure. Real quick, I wanted to say hi to everybody, but Whip said something. Meeting Rico in person isn't that big of a deal. He's a little handsy. I did grope Whip, when we met at the Keystone Clash last year. So yeah, I am a little handsy. I'm a hugger for sure. Keystone Clash is coming up, and if anybody is going to be there, make sure you say hi if I'm not familiar with who you are. I love meeting new people. Last year we had about 65 people from the community there, and this year we're looking at over 100. There's really going to be over 100 people. So, and those are just the small YouTubers. There's going to be some big YouTubers there too, but that's just the community people. That's just you and me. That's just all these people like us, all of our peers. There's going to be about 100 of us. So super looking forward to it.
Yeah. So yeah, I was. I still kick myself every day. During the Christmas giveaways that we're doing, I made the mistake of thinking that that the Clash was for some reason in February. So I actually was one of the ones that was actually able to win, I guess, a couple of tickets.
Yeah.
And I turned them down because I thought this is like in December, January, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to schedule this and be able to make it out there. Well, little did I know that it was in September. So once I realized that, that was like the biggest regret I've had so far. But it's okay. Okay. Next year, I even asked Scotty the other day when he was streaming. I said, "Is it always in September? Because if it's around that time, then it makes it real easy because I can submit my days off at the beginning of the year for work, and it'll automatically be scheduled. I don't have to compete with anybody for those days." And so I can kind of block off a certain amount of dates, and as I find out when exactly it's going to be, I can always cancel some of those vacation times. But it just makes it easier for planning. But yeah, next year I think it's one of those. It used to be that I wanted to go to Naquashella, but the more and more I learn about it, and the more the stuff that I see that is going on, I don't find it appealing anymore. Yeah. I'd rather go to an event like the Keystone Clash, where it's going to be a little bit, more of actually the community that's going to be there, and get to know some of the names and faces. Put faces with the names that we see on here. Although a lot of the people I've been very fortunate to either see them on a stream or been on a stream with them, and have gotten to see who they are, which is always neat. It's always because you always kind of based on the name and maybe finding out where they're at, you sort of make like a general mental picture. But then when you see the person, go, "Oh, that's not anything like what I was expecting," or the other way, it's like, "Oh, that's exactly who I imagined that was going to be."
Yeah. Well, you're right. Aquashellas, I'm still interested in, but Fishtoberfest. That's another one that's on my short list. Would love to go to the Fishtoberfest, but I'm with you. Those types of smaller events that are put on by the clubs are more what I'm interested in overall. Keith says he's 6'7" on stream. Keith is there. Keystone Clash. This will be my third year, and each of the years it is right that same weekend. I'm sure Scotty told you too. So yeah. Again, super excited. So many cool people get to go, and it's just a good time. I always come back motivated with my fish keeping as well. Because you're around all these amazing fish keepers, you can't help but get motivated with that. It's because throughout the year I sort of get burned out a little bit, and but then I come back from the Clash, I'm all gung ho. I'm ready to, get some new fish, and I'm ready to start learning about different things and do different things. So there's that motivation part of it too. But hanging out in the parking lot at 2:00 in the morning, having maybe some adult beverages or something is my favorite part of the whole thing. Just being able to hang out. I'm not a big drinker these days, but at the Keystone Clash, I seem to be.
Yeah, I'm definitely a social drinker. I don't drink. I mean, well, yeah, and even when I drink, that I'm here by myself. I'm not really by myself because it'll be on a stream with somebody else or a group of people. But I have never been able to come home, and I have a lot of friends that say, "Oh, as soon as I get home, I'll crack a beer and sit down and have it." That has never been. I never really understood that for myself. I tried it a couple of times, and I was like, "What am I doing? I'm just sitting here by myself having a beer." I like to be engaged in conversation and have a couple of drinks. That's really what I do enjoy, and it's not even so much what I'm drinking; it's more the company that I'm keeping at the moment, and that's the part that I really enjoy the most than anything else.
It definitely is as lube for the conversation, though, and sometimes, as long as everybody's responsible, which at the Clash has been the case. People, it's adults, it's people that are they're responsible. They're not getting out of control or anything. We've had some instances of people doing things, but they weren't, it was nothing serious. It's always just been fun. I just saw Keith's comment there about never burned out. Fish in the hobby is money. It will motivate you. Money has never motivated me. It's always been something that I needed. But Keith and I are very different, and he owns the actual business.
Yeah.
That's not me. So, but more power to you, Keith.
Yeah, I know. All right. So let me get into a couple of things with you. I know you said you're originally from the Chicago area. Is that where you were born and raised?
Yeah. Northern Indiana, South Bend, under the watchful eyes of Touchdown Jesus at Notre Dame.
So
we used to have a big Jesus painting on the end zone in the stadium at Notre Dame. So he was like a big, massive Jesus on the Notre Dame end zone.
He's no longer there, or what?
I don't believe so. I believe that stadium's either been torn down or redone.
Okay.
I'm out of touch. I don't follow Notre Dame like I did when I was a kid, so I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I was never really a big college football guy. I didn't, I dabbed a little bit with the NFL, but never really. I mean, I watch it. Don't get me wrong. If I go somewhere and they're showing a game, I'll watch it. But the team that I was rooting for growing up in LA was the Raiders, and they haven't done very well in the last few years, but that's okay. I mean, it's just I nowadays is more of a badge of pride, because people try to roast you or whatever. So it's like, all right, whatever. It doesn't matter.
I'm a Chicago Bears fan. I've been my entire life. My dad before me was a Chicago Bears fan way back into the, into the 40s. He was a Chicago Bears fan. So, we've had it in our family for a very long time. And I'm more of a Chicago Bears fan than an NFL fan today. I used to watch all the games, but now it's just the Bears. That's it. So still love it. Still love the NFL.
Yeah. Although the fantasy football did kind of change my perspective on how I rooted, because it used to be like if the Raiders were playing, that's all I would watch. But once I started, especially when you start playing for money, you get in those leagues where you'll drop a little bit of money. It's still friendly. It's nothing majorly competitive. All of a sudden, you find yourself rooting for players on different teams that you never thought you would be rooting for, just because you want to win that week. And so after doing that, I was like, you know what? I got a better appreciation for all the other teams in itself, and I kind of enjoyed it a little bit better because now I could sit down and watch anybody that was playing and kind of enjoy the game for what it was. So that kind of changed. And now it's just, I mean, I don't watch very much TV anyways. I mean, as it is, most of my time is either now working in the fish room or I'm watching you guys on streams, and I mean, everybody else that's streaming. And that's pretty much what it's been. Once in a while, I'll pop a show that I'll watch either on one of those streaming platforms. But that's pretty much it. I mean, I'll catch the occasional baseball game because that's what I grew up playing and, played at a level outside of high school. So that's still kind of but once I quit playing ball.
Who's your team in baseball?
See, for some reason, don't ask me why, but it's always been the Cardinals, the St. Louis Cardinals. Well, I know what it was. It was those powder baby blue uniforms that they used to wear. I really enjoyed them. When the time when Ozzie Smith was playing with them.
Okay.
And they had, I think the Phillies had the same colors, but except theirs were like a powder blue with maroon. And the Cardinals was that same color, but with red. And I believe the Royals also used a very similar color uniform, if I'm not mistaken. But for some reason, I kind of really, because it was kind of weird, a weird color. So I really liked that. And then after that, when they went to the red and white, I've always loved that color combination, the white uniform with the red lettering and the very navy blue trim on it. And I've always thought that looked very elegant, and that's why I think I've always rooted for them. They've had some pretty good teams along the way, and I loved it when they had Mark McGuire. That was so fun to watch him in that era. And then they had him for a while, and they had Jim Edmonds, who used to be the center fielder for the Angels. And just watching that guy play the outfield was just amazing. I mean, it was just – they've always had these really good players on those teams, but it was all by default. I mean, it was just by accident, not by default. By accident that I started rooting for the Cardinals. It wasn't – and I grew up in L.A., so I should have been Dodger blue all the way. I like them. I mean, I'll watch them, but when the Cardinals were playing, I root for the Cardinals.
So that sort of tells you something about me. I was a Cubs fan my entire life. Again, just like my dad, he was a Cubs fan. And 2 years before the Cubs finally won the World Series, I stopped watching baseball. So all my entire life, they never made it to the World Series. 2 years before they made it to the World Series, I stopped. Luckily, my dad got to see it. He was still alive. He passed away a few years ago, and he got to see it because he saw them get to the World Series in 1945, I believe it was.
Okay.
He saw them get there, but they didn't win. The last time they had won was 1908. So, his entire life he was a Cubs fan. He got to see them when he was a very young man go to the World Series. But then he finally got to see that. So that was cool. But that just tells you about me.
So he had to go through he had to suffer through the tragedy of Bartman in Chicago, huh?
That's part of why I sort of quit, because of how he was treated, sort of. Because when I was a kid, there was a little bit more homey stuff with Wrigley Field. It was a little bit more, it was a friendly confines. Well, that wasn't very friendly to him, right? He got death threats. I mean, he had to move out of Chicago. And that's part of the reason why it's a game. It's a game. And when people start taking those things so serious.
For years, there was no night games there. It was always,
88, I think, was the first night game. Yeah. I actually saw the Bears play in in Wrigley Field. The Bears used to play in Wrigley Field up until 1971 or 72. I can't remember, sometime around them. I got to see one of the last years, I got to see the Bears play in Wrigley. So that was pretty cool. Wrigley Field was actually the stadium until just recently that had the most NFL games played at it because the Chicago Cardinals played there for, decades too. So they had more NFL games played at Wrigley Field than any other stadium until I don't remember what year that changed. Wasn't that? So
those Cardinals are the Phoenix Cardinals now, right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, St. Louis, they moved around. They went to Chicago. They started in Chicago not long after the Bears, moved to St. Louis, and then moved to Arizona. Again, I think in 88. I could be wrong about that, but around there. And
they were in St. Louis for the longest time, weren't they?
Yeah, for a very long time. 50s, maybe. I honestly don't remember. 40s or 50s. I mean, 40s, before me. But I don't remember. It's been a long time. We've definitely got into football stuff. I'm surprised you still got because I know a lot of the community doesn't care for sports. Oh, you mentioned fantasy football though. There's actually a Fish fam. Were you aware of the Fish fam? Did you play last year?
No. I think I'm going to try it this year. I haven't. The only thing is that when I started doing it, it became so time consuming because especially like I said, we had money on the line. It wasn't a lot of money, but anytime you drop anything, even if it's $5, as competitive as I am, I hate losing. It's I don't know if it's even the money or not, but just the fact that I got skin in the game, it changes it for me, and I'm like, I'm not gonna lose,
There's no
and
money.
There's all the trash talking that goes along with it too. That is, it's relentless, and it was kind of cool because the group we were with. Half of us worked together in one of the offices, and the other half were from a different agency, but still within. Because I used to work for the county of Imperial, and we had like 6 of us that were in the air pollution department, and then there was another 6 guys that were from the Department of Agriculture. So we had that kind of because at one point it used to be the same agency, and then they separated because they built different offices. So it was kind of like a natural rivalry between each other. So the trash talking that would happen during the week was relentless. I mean, it was just going after each other. And then the crickets on Monday, based on who lost, they wouldn't say anything. So, it was, but I kind of enjoyed that. But it was really time consuming because you're sitting there, you're trying to figure out who's injured. You're trying to come up with replacements for those players. You're looking at stats, who's the up and coming star that nobody's drafted off yet. So there's always, it's a lot of time investment. So that's why I kind of quit doing it. And I've kind of tinkered with the idea, but I don't know.
It's for fun. There's no, just bragging rights. There's nothing else. You know what? I think I have that exact cup that you were just drinking out of. I should have had that. I should have got that. Oh, it's invisible.
Yeah, I know.
But it's just bragging rights, and it's fun. I don't trash talk at all. It's just not who I am. I usually say good luck, and that's about the extent of it. I'm just not that person. But I know other people really enjoy it. But it's a lot of fun. So Chattanooga Ed is the guy who runs it. He's trying to get three. He wants to do 3 10-team leagues this time. Last year he had 2 leagues. One of them had 14. I think that's a little too much. You get to around 10, then you got some players to pick up and stuff, and it's just more fun. So I'd love it if you joined us this year.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, and I was looking at that, and I'm pretty good at reading the crowd. Gauging the temperature of who you're playing with, because I know not everybody enjoys getting rubbed here and there. So, but I know because we all kind of knew each other. We worked together, and when you have coworkers, it's a whole different. It's a whole different animal. I mean, it's almost mandatory.
The thing is, I've been guilty of going too far in the past. I don't always know where the line is, and so I've really bothered people. I don't want to say I've offended, but I've said things to people that I shouldn't have. So these days, I just like to not engage at all, because then I'm safe. I don't go too far with it, because I've done that in the past. I've learned a lot throughout all these years that I've been alive. I've made enough mistakes and I've tried to learn from all those mistakes, and that, treating people, even if it's for fun. And a lot of people, again, just absolutely enjoy it. If somebody's into it, that's great. You do you. But I've learned that myself, I take it too far. So I just don't do it.
Yeah. So you come to Arizona. You said when you were about 12 is what you mentioned?
Yes, moved to Arizona when I was 12. Yeah. Yep. There was nothing. The place had changed so much all the years I lived there. But yeah, it was hardly anything when we moved there.
Yeah, I remember. I know you and I have had this conversation, because I remember after high school, I graduated in '91, and I went to one of the trade schools up there, PIT, Phoenix Institute of Technology.
Yep.
And it was off of a University and 24th. Okay, is it avenues or streets first?
Avenues are on your side, closer to you. The streets are on the
Okay, so it was 24th Street, because it was past the avenues. And I remember they used to be there, and then they had the UTI right across from our campus. And I remember,
horrible UTI, you're not tracking.
Yeah, but they used to be, I guess, an auto mechanic school at the time. Now it's become more than that. And the school that I went to, I think a few years after I left, got raided by the FBI. It became a big deal, and then I guess there was some fraud or something that was going on. Because I remember coming across a friend of mine that we were going to school together, and he's the one that kind of told me, "Hey, did you hear about the school? This and this happened." And sure enough, you actually, if you Google it, Phoenix Institute of Technology, that's one of the first things that comes up, that the school was closed because of a federal investigation.
Yeah.
And I think it was because I had to be, the only thing I could think of was probably because of financial aid. They used to provide you financial aid, so they must have been misappropriation of funds.
So many schools like that, those types of schools, and there's good ones out there, but There's a lot of those schools that have gone through that or have done it. Yeah, it's unfortunate, taking advantage of people.
Yeah, and what was funny was, because I remember when we went to school, it was a big deal because I guess Ice Cube was a student there, and I always thought they were lying about it. Because it's like, yeah, whatever. What's he going to be doing here? Because by the time we heard about it, he was blowing up with the NWA and all that stuff, and we're like, yeah, whatever. What's this guy ever going to? Well, I was watching, I think, something about his biography or something like that, and sure enough, he was there 2 years prior to me showing up, and that was the reason he dropped out of school was because the group started becoming very successful, so he had to go on tour with the group. So there was a couple of students there that was their claim. Oh yeah, he was here and this and that. We're like, yeah, whatever, dude.
Those are fun years though, going to school. We had Thursday nights. We always went out for drinks and stuff, and we always tried a different restaurant. Most of our class would go, so there'd be 30, 40 guys, 30, 40 people, mostly guys, to be honest. But we'd go try different, like Ethiopian food or whatever, and tie on, have a few drinks. It's fun. It was fun years.
Yeah. No, and like I said, I was there, well, basically almost a whole year. Finished the school and then ended up coming back. But they had a different, the second year to the school, but it's just, at the point, my whole thing was I was trying to buy myself time to turn 21 because I wanted to do law enforcement. And that was always my thing. Growing up, where I'm from, the Imperial Valley, one of the biggest employers was the federal government, whether it was through Customs, a Border Patrol, or INS. Well, now they're all the same, right? But at the time, there were three different agencies, and that was the one, one of the better paying jobs in the community. So that's what I thought I was going to do, and so I went over there. I said, well, I wasn't gonna go to the military at the time. I didn't really think about it, so I decided to go to trade school. Well, after that year, that's when I ended up enlisting for the military. But the only upside of that was that I did have a little bit of what they considered college credits, and I was able to get into a field where I didn't have to be marching every day. So I got to ride a cut V to wherever we're going and set up communications equipment because I had a background in electronics.
Yeah.
So that was the only upside. Without unbeknownst to me, that kind of worked out in my favor. And but that was pretty much it. After that, like I said, I went back and joined the military. So I did that for a while and come around. I started going to school. I actually finished school and I got my degree in criminal justice, but never really worked in it. Never, I got the degree in it and I did an internship with the Bureau of Land Management, which they actually paid my last 2 years of university, which was kind of nice. And, but never really fell into that job. I ended up getting employment in different areas and never looked back.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how a lot of people do that. My daughter's same. She went to school. She started out, she was going to be a vet. She wanted to be a vet for a long time. She said she was like 5 years old. She wanted to be a vet. And then she got into school and it changed and she was going to be this and that. And now she wants to be a coroner. So she's already done a lot of the schooling and now she's working a different job and hopefully she goes back and does it. But her entire life, she's just like you. She wanted to be a certain thing, and that changed when she actually got into higher education.
Yeah.
Hi, Kenny. Hello, everybody.
I know there's been a lot of people coming in.
Yeah, I see a lot of amazing people here.
So you stayed in Phoenix till when? That's the only other place you lived besides where you're living now, or?
Yeah, we lived around Phoenix. I lived in Phoenix and just all the suburbs, usually on the east side, a couple times on the west, Glendale, but mostly on the east side of the valley. for, let's see, we lived there for most of my life, actually. Still to this point, I lived in Arizona longer than upstate New York, and we've been here 24 years now. So New York or Arizona was where I spent most of my life, but we moved here in 1999 actually. I had done some different schooling. I went back to school to be an IT guy. I was hired by State Farm Insurance, did that for a year, and then we said, you know what, we want to leave Arizona. At the time, Arizona was number one in the nation, violent crimes against children, last in the nation in education spending, and just not a great place to raise kids. There was a ton of jobs. But both of us, my wife and I, my wife's from this area, I was from the Chicago area. Both of us sort of missed 4 seasons. We missed the changing of the seasons, and we wanted to go someplace different. So we took a month vacation. We went to where my grandma still lived at the time in South Bend, close to South Bend, Indiana. And we came up here, and this place won out. The educational opportunities in New York State are amazing. They've got great schools, and as you can get free community college, but the SUNY schools are great schools. They really are. People come from other places to go to the SUNY schools, so they're ranked very highly in education, which was important to us for the kids. So we've lived here since '99 is when we moved up.
Yeah, because I remember when I was, like I said, this was in the early '90s when I was up there in Phoenix, and you're right, there wasn't very much. I remember the drive from Gila Bend to Phoenix. There wasn't anything in between there. I mean, you as a matter of fact, the old road, you wouldn't be able to see where Buckeye was at. It's just it was all just windy back roads that you would take that would connect you up to the 10. Yeah. And then I remember that once we got to the 10, it seemed like it was an hour before we even hit the city limits. Well, maybe, obviously, must have been at least 20 years from when I was there to the first time I went back. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. It was totally different. There was Gila Bend is still Gila Bend. It hasn't really grown much. You got a little bit more stops. Well, they got a couple of truck stops now, so it has grown. But the road, they changed it, which I guess is 80, the interstate, well, whatever it's like, they called the 80, and it's more of a straight shot. Because I remember it used to be a windy back country road, and now it's like a straight shot, and you're there like within 30 minutes, I think, from there to the road. But as soon as you hit Interstate 8, or no, it's the 10, it's all houses. I mean, and then there's a whole bunch of connecting highways that did not exist. The only thing that you had there was the 10 and I-17, and that was it. Those were the major highways.
Now it's all connected. There's loops and everything. My in-laws still live there. They come up and visit every once in a while, but it's totally different. So the little towns, especially on the east side, but the west side caught up. The east side, those little towns, Chandler, Gilbert, Tempe, all of those were like in the top 5 to 10 fastest growing in the nation for like 30 years. They blew up massively. And, that was part of the reason to get out too, is just so the Phoenix area is, I think, maybe the largest metropolis area in the United States now, or it's very close. Maybe Dallas, Fort Worth it's like 250 miles of just suburbs with the city in the middle. It's massive. It's huge, and it's all spread out. And we're starting to look good though, because they're starting to really have a lot of water shortages. So I'm starting to look a little bit like a genius for getting out there when I did.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of interesting because, as soon as they start saying that they're struggling, all of a sudden they get all this rain out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So,
and you know about anybody here, that's what you do, right? So
yeah,
that's part. But
no. No, I do work on the Colorado River, but even though it's not for the Phoenix area, the metro area, because they get their water from the Salt River. Where we do distribute water for it's definitely three areas, which is the whole Yuma County area. We deliver water to Mexico, and we deliver water to the Imperial Valley. And but in between that, there's a whole bunch of other smaller water districts that also get provided by us. But those are the three major consumers of water, and most of it is all agricultural. It all goes to growing crops down here. But yeah, it's interesting. It does get very political because resources are valuable. So it starts getting real interesting when some of the other people that rely on the Colorado River, which like Vegas and I remember who else was all the little smaller cities along the way. You have Parker, you have Quartzside, all these areas. Well, when they start getting water restrictions because most of their water is for the population and recreation, whereas all the water that comes down to us is for agricultural. They start getting upset because why is the Imperial Valley and Yuma getting their water allotments and everybody else is being told you can't have any water? So yeah, it can get pretty intense politically wise and what they were going to do.
I mean, we got to have food, right? I mean, we got to have priorities.
Yeah, but the people in Vegas want to have their lights on too, and and they feel that they're a bigger city, so they're more entitled to that. And the reality is, it's stupid that all these cities are being built in the desert. That's just at the end of the day, it's not something that's going to be self-sustained. Eventually they're going to have these problems. I don't care what they do, how much, and then especially when you go there and they have all these water displays that are just. It's no different than Palm Springs. I never understood Palm Springs either.
Yep. Well, and they did change that in Arizona. I'm sure they still have it. But when, back when we lived there, the people used to, in the 70s, people would go to Arizona. Their doctor would prescribe them to go to Arizona because the air was good for different lung allergies and stuff. But then they put in so many, lawns. They put in so many golf courses that it actually changed the environment. The humidity went up. A lot of native plants were dying out. Everywhere you looked, everybody had green lawns, and it's the middle of the desert. So they finally got smart right about the time we were leaving and said, okay, when you build a new house, this much of your landscape has to be natural desert landscape instead of lawn, and unfortunately that's what you have to do at some point. You can't just allow people to put in these massive lawns and things, that take up a lot more water than a saguaro cactus in a barrel or something.
Yeah, then rocks. You don't have to water rocks.
Yeah, they actually Sun City, which is a massive, it's not as big as the one in Florida, but it's a massive retirement community. Most of those people had green rocks. They would come in and spray paint the rocks once a year, so it looked like a green lawn, but it was just pebbles, so it was spray painted green to look like a lawn. Nowadays,
if you see like new construction and it has green areas, it's astroturf. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not going to be natural gas, which I understand. I think it was frivolous to have green lawns out here in the desert when water is such a precious resource. It's limited. It's not. It was just, it didn't make any sense. I'm glad to see that that's changing, and now you're seeing more of the droughtscapes, which in itself they can be very nice if done correctly too. But And the maintenance on it is almost 0 to none.
Yeah. Plus, you moved. Most of the people. I mean, maybe it's not that way anymore. But again, those little towns were the fastest growing for so long, and it was people coming from the Northeast and the Midwest and places where it's easy to have a lawn. I don't water my lawn. We have an amazing lawn I've never once in my life watered it. You bring that with you, but you've moved to this place. Why not enjoy the change? Why not? Don't bring the lawn with you. Change up to that different, whatever the natural environment there is. You made a move for a reason. Maybe enjoy what's natural to the area.
Yeah. Well, and then what's interesting too is as technology advances. I remember AstroTurf was literally like little pieces of plastic that, and it, very, you could tell right away that it was fake. It's the stuff you would see in the putt-putts. But with the stuff you see out there nowadays, it actually, I mean, I have to go touch it sometimes just to make sure that it's not real grass, because it looks very real. And they've got it where you have shorter strands, longer strands, so that it actually looks like natural grass.
Yeah. Huh. I haven't seen any of the newer stuff. That's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Unfortunately, it's usually still made from petroleum products, right? So usually, probably, maybe there's some recycled stuff. I honestly don't know. So you hate putting more plastics out there, but maybe it's all recycled. That would be amazing to do.
If it rained a lot, I'd be worried about it because it would leach. But we don't get that much rain, so it's not. I think the sun will deteriorate it quicker than anything else. Because out here, I mean, I don't think there's anything that's made out of plastic that'll last more than a couple of years out here in the summer, because it just gets brittle.
I remember I had a 66 Plymouth Fury. It was like 1978 or something like that. So the car was, I don't remember. The car was older, and the paint was oxidized. Every time I washed it, there was just a white coat because the paint was just oxidizing from the sun. It wasn't any rust, but the paint was just turning to powder on the thing. It was a tan color originally, and then it just sort of went to like a white, and the paint was super thin just all the years. It was an Arizona car from the beginning. Huge car, 66 Plymouth Fury, had like a 384, and the thing was just massive. You could fit 5 people across the back seat, 4 in the front seat. It was huge.
Usually what happens is that clear coat they put on paint is what's really, it's the sun is just beating on it so hard that it's actually flaking off. It comes off, and that's what makes your paint shiny. So that when the clear coat goes, that's why your paint doesn't shine anymore.
Yeah, it's quick out there.
So are you a car guy?
No, I was a Volkswagen guy. I actually have a Volkswagen tattoo. When I was a kid, I was really into Volkswagens. At one time, we were talking about Volkswagens, and I showed this to somebody, and the guy goes, "West Virginia, nice." And I was like, "No, Volkswagen. We're just talking about Volkswagens."
I think he was giving you a hard time, though. I think he did know.
He really thought, West Virginia. I was like, besides, it's Volkswagen. Why would it be WV? But anyways, I was a big Volkswagen guy. Again, when we lived in Arizona and I was a young man, we would go to Buggins all the time. I had 3 or 4 of them. I had some show bugs. I had a lot of Bajas. Bajas were fun out there. You go off-roading with those. So I was a car guy back then, but I traded my last Volkswagen for a little Datsun 240Z, and that was it. After that, I don't even care. I don't like to drive anymore. My wife drives everywhere these days. Road rage is a thing for me, so it's better for all of us if she drives. And I haven't actually driven a car probably maybe once this year so far, maybe. I'm not a car guy at all. I mean, I can appreciate them. I see a car and go, "Ooh, that's pretty cool," but I'm not, I hate working on them. Absolutely hate working on cars. I hate the bloody greasy knuckles, and just, I hate it.
Yeah, I always admire mechanics out here in this area because the vehicles are hot as it is, and you trying to get under there, and the temperature is not helping at all. Yeah. I mean, my dad was a diesel mechanic for many, many, many years, and I think that's why I always had a part-time job, because whenever we weren't working, that we weren't out there, working somewhere else, we had to go help him, and there was no option on it, especially during the summer or the school breaks. So doing that kind of work and working out in the heat, because there wasn't air conditioning for the shops. It would just cost too much money. So you're just kind of out there with a little fan, working under the hot trucks and trying to grease them and do all this other stuff. And I said, yeah, no, mechanic is not the way I want to go.
No. I did construction work out there, but it was mostly trim work, so I was indoors. But it was brand new home, so there was no air conditioning on or anything like that. It was sort of nice. You wake up, you get to work at like 5:30 in the morning. You're done by 1:30. You only work until 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and you're done. And then we'd go get a case of beer and go do a side job where we're working in the sun all day. But still, I did do construction work in Arizona. And again, you get acclimated, you get used to it. One of my favorite things to do. Go ahead.
You learn how to work in the heat. That's what really was.
Yes. A lot of the Mexican nationals taught me the best way to stay cool, because I would wear a t-shirt, and I didn't want to have much on. But no, they were wearing long sleeve sweaters, and that thing would just get soaked, but it would keep you cool. And so I learned very quickly on the right way to do it.
Yeah, you wouldn't have the sun beating on your skin.
Yeah.
So that's long sleeve is
cooler. You've just you've got that sweat, and it's just it's keeping you cool. It's keeping your body cooler. Yeah,
that's why when you get done working, you have all this white ring around your chest area from where you were releasing all that sweat and the salt in your body. And so you always, when you got done, you always had like these salt rings on you.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing that I learned too, was actually taking salt tablets. That was not something that I was aware of that you had to do, because you're sweating so much.
Yeah.
You'll start drinking water, but you just won't get hydrated. So you got to have some of that salt so that your body will retain some of that water.
You could sometimes tell what the person drank the night before. We called it sweating out last night's sins, because somebody just smells like beer, or somebody smells like whiskey or whatever. You could just smell it coming out of them.
That was us during basic training after a night of weekend drinking. It was just you'll start to smell it on all of us. They work it out of us.
I don't miss that. Again, it's 65 degrees right here. I can go outside and work, and these days I still break a sweat doing stuff because I'm fat and old, but it's it's not bad. 65 degrees, it's not bad to work in, compared to out there.
Yeah, Gerd Delirium says that he has the opposite problem. He gets so cold that the tools will stick to their hands. Yeah, no, I've never had to experience that, thankfully. I mean, I've seen where was it Christmas Story where the kid sticks his tongue out and gets stuck. I had it happen to me with ice. Ice out of the freezer, but that quickly just put a little water and it goes away. But I can't imagine being stuck to metal.
That happened to me was a phone booth too. It was our bus stop when I was in first grade. They didn't have kindergarten, so I was in first or second grade at the time. And my brother told me to do it, and he was a dick. So
he made you stick your tongue to it.
Yeah. And then the bus came, and I was stuck there and got in trouble. And it was all him, Yeah.
So how did they finally release you from it?
We don't talk to this day. My mom got a call that I wasn't at the school. I didn't make it to school, so she got a call, and so she, went down and just see where, tried to find me, and I was still down there in the phone booth with my. Which is, disgusting anyways. A phone booth is a disgusting thing, so yeah.
Yeah, for those of you that were born in the 90s onward, it's a box where they had a phone where you put money in it to be able to make a call.
Yeah.
There was no cell phones back then.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that that you think about the stuff that we got to experience and how there's, like, I look at my grandkids, they have no idea of what a rotary phone was or even a wireless. I mean, if you had a wireless telephone at your house, you were living large,
Yeah.
But I was at the time where they used to sell the coiled extended cords that you could buy like 10 feet of it just to be able to have a little privacy, because it always used to be the phone was always in the kitchen. That was the only place. It was only one phone in the house growing up. and it would be in the kitchen. And if you wanted to be somewhere else and try to be a little bit private, you had to figure out a way to get, away from everybody being able to listen. So what for us, it was a godsend to be able to see these long cords that you could connect to the handset and to the terminal, and then you could kind of walk away so your parents are not listening to what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how it used to be. Nowadays, everybody takes that for granted. You got your phone everywhere you go.
Sure. There's a lot of stuff like that too. Little things like the save icon in most applications, PC and Mac applications. The save icon is a floppy disk. Well, most kids have no idea. I mean, they know what it is, but they've never actually used a floppy disk, and some have no idea what it even is. Well, and it's that constant change is here to stay, right? The Rush lyric, constant change is here to stay. So we're just things are going so quick and changing. They're not massive changes, they're just little incremental changes, but it's happening every single day.
Yeah, I remember you would get like the early computer games, and you get a whole little set of floppy disks, and you'd be playing, and then it'd say insert new disk to continue playing. So those are some of the things that I don't think a lot of these generations will ever experience, unless they go to like a vintage shop that has this stuff. And they'll probably look at it and go, "What the hell are you guys doing? How is this cool?"
I used to get a magazine called Basic, and you would actually take that magazine and you would type in, hundreds of lines of code, pages and pages of code to get your game. And you would type it in. So it would take you, a day, sometimes maybe longer, to type in all the code, and then you could play your game, and then you had to save it somehow too. And sometimes you didn't have a way to save it, so it would just go away. And every time you wanted to play it, then you'd have to type it back in again. So it was fun. My first console, I'm still a gamer today. I got an Xbox. I was playing Baldur's Gate 3 yesterday. My first console was Pong in 1972.
I remember playing those. And it's amazing how long it would entertain you for. Nowadays, you give it to a kid, and they would be like, "What is this?" Games have advanced so much. That they look at you like you're weird because all you were playing was a little ball. That I remember that was cool, and then you had like the Super Breakout, and then where it was you could play solo against the top of bricks, and you were always trying to go back and forth. That one, and then you would release the trapped little balls, and now all of a sudden you got two. Very, very basic, very simple games, but you could sit there for hours and play. Oh, yeah. But the very first game console that I ever had was an Atari 2600.
Yep.
But this is after Atari, because when they first came out, I think they were like in the hundreds of dollars, and it was like $100, $200 or $300. But that was when $200 or $300 was a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember,
I want to say maybe $350, $400 when the first ones came out, and that's the price back then in the late 70s. 76, 78. I can't remember when the Atari console came out, the 2600. But yeah, somewhere around there. It's expensive.
And to kind of give you an idea how long after it came out, I remember I was able to save up allowances, and I think, to this, if I'm not mistaken, it cost $26 for the console, and it was brand new. But the price had dipped down so much because it was so many years later, and they had sold so many of these that I was able to get mine for $26, and that was all. It was all money that I was able to save up. And now I remember that because it was $26, and that was like a cool Christmas gift that we got. My brother and I got it, but that was the deal too, though. The condition was that if I got the game console, it had to be for me and my brother. It couldn't just because then my mom didn't want us fighting over the console. So when I got it, it's like, he's younger. I'm the oldest. Okay. I'm the oldest, but we're 4 years apart. So yeah, he was. Yeah,
far apart.
Yeah, but I was always the older brother. But it was kind of like one of those things where my mom said, "No, you got the money to buy it, but if you buy it, it's for the two of you. It's not your console; it's your guys' console." So that kind of was a smart move on my mom's side because I think I would have been very possessive and not let him play.
So we actually pirated the 2600 games. So my dad worked for Motorola. We had a Apple clone like in '78 or so. So what we would do is we would rent the cartridge for like $2. And he had a card reader, a cable, just a cable, like an IDE cable. I don't remember exactly what type, but you would plug it into that. He would read the entire, the little chip, because they were just chips, read that into a ROM chip. And then we had a board that they made at work. So it had what's called a ZIF slot in it. A ZIF is zero insertion force. And so it was a little slot. You put the card in, put the chip in, and then you locked it into place. So you had one board, but you would constantly take out different chips. So we had all the games for the 2600 because we pirated them. So
that was basically, because if you looked at the game cartridge, didn't it have that chip like a little board in the middle? That's basically what it was. They were able to buy those and download the information on them and use them. So without the case.
Exactly. And the board itself would be a little bit different than the official one, but it had the right pin outs and everything. But it definitely, the regular board chips didn't have that big ZIF socket where you could put different chips into it. They were soldered into it. So this one, you could just take them out, pop the chip out, put it back in the foam piece, put the next game in, and play. So I had all the games, every game for the Atari 2600.
Yeah. The other thing that I joke with my grandkids is, like, I remember growing up, and I don't know, I mean, we never really had a lot of money, so we never had cable, but just through standard TV, I think we had 3 channels, and the programming at midnight would end. There wasn't 24-hour television that I can remember growing up as a kid, because we used to try to stay up real late to see how long we could watch TV till, but then you would get the national anthem, and then it was snow. That was it. And then, so I tell, because my kids now, even my kids grew up watching TV 24/7. There was no such thing as, turn off the TV and go to bed. For us, it was just, you were done. There's nothing else to do.
So another thing about pirating, there was this service called On TV, On TV, and it would come on one of the VHF or UHF channels at 5:00 in the afternoon. It would switch over to this pay channel. Well, it was their antennas were on South Mountain. We lived in Mesa, and my dad knew how to pirate that. All he did was get a stick with a coffee can and a coax cable. And the coax cable was in the coffee can, and it was just the bare end of it sticking out. And you pointed it right at the right place, and we got On TV for free because they were just broadcasting it out everywhere. So we were, and then he actually worked for the cable companies for a while too, back when they used filters. So he brought home the filters you had to put in line so that you got all the different channels and stuff. We've been pirates for a long time. To this day, I still have some pirate tendencies.
Yeah, I remember. I find it interesting now. You never think about it when it's happening, but the progression of how cable and all that. Because I remember all of a sudden you started seeing these big satellite dishes on people's houses, and that kind of became like a little status symbol. Like, oh, I gotta this big dish and whatever, and I get so many channels. Nobody ever watched all the channels. The only thing that I know that was kind of cool about it, you got a bunch of pornographic channels on there that you were, as a teenager, you're always curious to try to go out and see. But
I'd still be interested. Teenager. Yeah, but and sometimes on those big dishes, you could get the feed from the news station. So they would have a raw feed, so you'd get the stuff when they were on commercials and stuff like that on the huge disc, not like the Direct TV and all those, but on the huge discs. Yeah, you could get dishes. You could get that feed. So when the people are just at commercial and talking to each other, not on air, you could get that and see what they were saying. And that was pretty cool to watch some of that stuff.
Well, what it was always funny though is because I guess the dish in itself were pretty expensive, but if you didn't buy the motorized, that would go on the antenna to shift it, you would always see the guy going up in the ladder, Can you see it now? Can you see it now? Because they had enough money to buy the system, but not to get the motorized little engine that it had on the little motor in it to get it to move. So it was always, we would always laugh at that. It's like, it's crazy. You had the neighbor up there and screaming down to his wife if the signal was good. It was like,
we had it was either DirecTV. What was the other one when they were the smaller dishes? What was
Dish Network?
Dish Network. We had Dish Network in Arizona, and we'd always lose our TV signal in the middle of the day from like noon to 2:00 because it would just get too hot. Because it was faced towards the south, and it would just get too hot. So what I found is if I took a wet dish rag up there and put it on the one piece, we could, because like maybe the Cubs game was on WGN or something. I want to watch the Cubs or something during the daytime. It's the weekend and the kids want to watch TV, whatever. We always had to cool it off to watch TV. I don't know if we had a flawed one or something, but
you see that the remote motor. Yeah, most of the guys in our community had enough money to buy the damn thing, and half the time we didn't even know they really had the receiver at the bottom. But they wanted to make sure that the neighbors knew they had the big antenna on the roof. For all intended purposes, it was just a regular antenna, with they're using the dish to make it seem like they had the satellite TV,
the big stuff.
Yeah, and it was they started out pretty big, but then they got it was like phones, and phones started getting bigger, and then they started getting smaller again, and like today now it's just a little circle, and I hardly ever see them now, but for a while there you could drive to the neighborhoods and see a bunch of them.
Yeah, they were very popular. Now most of the stuff is just streaming instead. Why as long as you can get access. I mean, we have one choice here for internet access. Otherwise we'd be stuck with satellite, which is horrible. I wouldn't be doing any streaming because the upload speeds are just, I mean, I could get that Starlink, but I'd prefer not to give him any money.
Yeah, we've been fortunate that where we're at that we get what is it, fiber optics, or I don't even know what it is now. But it's I don't have to worry about.
We're lucky too. Yeah, we've got good speeds right here. Some of the people that live on the access roads down here can't get it though. We live right on the main road, and we have access roads that go down. Most of the time, the people don't live there year round, but there's a couple that do, and they can't even get internet service down there, and it's right there. Their house is right there. It's like 50 yards from where I'm sitting, and they can't get internet access.
Yeah, but all right. So we've been into this for about an hour, and we haven't talked fish at all. So it is a fish channel after all, but I guess we need to talk a little bit about them. How many tanks do you have, Rico?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I only have 8. I have 8 now. I had 12. I've been consolidating and taking tanks down. I'm trying to. I wasn't doing real good with maintenance. It was just getting to be too much. I have an autoimmune disease that takes me out sometimes, and I it's hard to plan things, and there's sometimes days when I can't get out of bed, so I just wasn't keeping up on the maintenance. So I've gone down, and I'm going to go further. I'm going to get rid of some more tanks too. I also have a pond outside that's doing really well. It has a ton of guppies in it that I didn't know were in there, and I also have a tub with guppies on purpose too.
Yeah, so are you going to be taking any of that stuff up to the class?
Yeah, I every year. That's why I keep the guppies. They're just muck guppies at this point, but I take them to give away to people like Lori, Monster Fish Gal. She actually sort of uses the leftovers for feeder fish, which I'm okay with. But also at the Keystone Clash, they do give a kid a tank, and I'll give them guppies. They'll take the guppies and give them to the kids. And then I let people, Patty, she wants some of them. So I give her first choice. So she'll take a few of them. I take a lot of stuff up to give away. Like I walk along the shore and pick up driftwood to bring. I've got quite a bit of driftwood to bring this year. Just give it away. Guppy grass and different plants plants I bring to give away. I like giving stuff away. I enjoy it. So I try to take at least a few things with me to give away each year.
So what's your favorite tank setup? Do you like bare bottoms? Do you like
No, I like a tank that looks as natural as possible. I'm not a great aquascaper by any means. I don't have the vision, but there's Patty right there. He's dang right I give first choice. I like to plant stuff and then forget it and let it just go. I hardly even trim plants until they get out of control. I am going to start using CO2. I got a regulator from the co-op.
Oh, okay.
They send me stuff from time to time.
Oh, nice.
Corey and the co-op are great people, and they sent me one of these. I did not buy it. They sent me one. They do that from time to time, about once a month or so. They send me some stuff like this shirt. And so I am going to put CO2 on the 75, but I do like heavily planted natural tanks. And, a lot of people talk about foreground and mid-ground and background plants, and I don't do any of that. Yeah. I have Pogostemin in the very front of this tank. It's not about me viewing the fish. I want the fish to feel safe and comfortable. And so I feel like if you have the low plants in the very front, they're seeing you all the time coming up and they're seeing stuff. When they've got those big plants in the front where they can sort of hide more, I feel like they feel safer. I could be wrong, but I feel like they feel more comfortable,
Yeah.
Love those kind of tanks.
Yeah. And I've kind of gotten in that direction now where I'm letting it do its thing. I'll put the plants in there, and I'm finding out that I'm kind of really enjoying the tank sport when plants just go run rampant and they take over, and I don't really mess with it. I hardly ever put my hands in the tanks. I'm not tinkering with them. I usually kind of set them and forget them. Other than when I do my water changes is about the only time that I'll mess with it. And I just let nature take its course. I don't pull fish out of tanks. Mine are, because I have guppies, I have live bears, they're all overstocked, but I guess they reach a certain point where they just won't breed beyond that. So it's not like they're at a point where, I'm having to get rid of fish. I just let them do its own course. Some of them will die off from age and stuff like that. And there'll be a time where you see a lot of fry, and then all of a sudden I don't have as many fries, and those fry will grow out to become adults. And as the other older ones die out, then I'll start seeing all of a sudden a bunch of new fry. But I don't pull fish out of my tanks. I just kind of set them and forget them. And I enjoy it more than anything else. I like spending more time sitting in there and watching what's going on than, fixing stuff and trying to move plants here and there. I kind of started doing it at first when I started putting my channel together because I was trying to create content. I've gotten to a point now where I just I have fish, and if I do something different, I'll share it with you, but I'm not, for the sake of creating content, I'm not going in there and breaking stuff down anymore. I just let it run its course.
You see a lot of people in our community with just amazing tanks, and I love them. Don't get me wrong, I love them. There's so many talented people that just create these beautiful aquascapes, and they look amazing, and I'm sure that the fish are incredibly healthy and they're taking care of things. That's just not me, though. Just like you, I prefer just to let it go. I mean, I do my water changes and stuff, but I don't do a lot of other maintenance on them. I'm not, like you said, it's exactly the same thing. I'm not moving stuff around. I barely trim stuff. I just like the tank to get sort of natural,
Yeah. I know people always ask me because they say, well, how often do you gravel bed? I don't. It's one thing that I've never done it. I don't know. And I've never had an issue with it. What I've learned over the course of the years is that stuff will work its way down into the substrate, and my plants will use it. So that's why I don't bother with You see, and I don't, but my tanks don't create a lot of moam. Like I've seen some of the other videos where I typically see a lot of the moam will be like in the bare bottom tanks where they're breeding a lot of fish. I can see it there, but most of mine have some type of substrate, and I hardly ever see it. It's always when I start seeing it, it's already when it's working its way into the gravel. And since I have so many plants in there, I guess they just kind of, it's the whole circle of life. They'll consume whatever goes in there.
So I do once in a while, like because I let the tank go a little longer than most people with trimming. Like I had some poga stemmen that was massive. It was taking up almost this entire 75. And I trimmed it back a while back. And underneath that I couldn't see, there was also some guppy grass mixed in with it, but it was just solid, right? It was just in plant. I couldn't really see underneath it. There was quite a bit of mold. So I did take that out, but that's the only place I really see it is in those places where either I've had a lot of plant die off for some weird reason, or I haven't, I couldn't see it for a long time, and it wasn't getting any circulation down in there either because the plants were so thick that there was no, the fish weren't even swimming through there. It was so thick. It was bad. It was bad. So that time I would gravel vac, but I'm the same way. I don't normally gravel vac. And I've only been keeping fish this go around just for about 3 years now. I had them when I was a young man, in 60s and 70s, but it's been a very long time since I've kept them regularly, and it's only been like 3 years, and I haven't had any, I've lost some fish. I just lost one the other day. I had 2 bluegills in this little tank right here, and the big guy killed off the little guy. So I did lose a bluegill, but I sort of thought that was coming. He was getting more and more aggressive as he got older, and I probably should have taken the little guy out, but he killed it the other day.
Yeah, I don't think there's the hobbyist that hasn't. You lose fish. That's just natural. I mean, they're gonna die of old age anyway. So I mean, when somebody said, "Oh, I've never had a fish die on me," I was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever, dude."
Yeah. Everybody does. If you're
now I know you're lucky.
Then that's something concerning, right? If you're losing entire tanks, things like that. But I've been lucky, knock on wood. I keep community tanks, and even in some of the tanks like Bosemani Rainbow, they bred in there, and I didn't do anything to help them, and a couple of fish made it through. So I love that too. I love the community tanks.
Well, I found it in my experience, the less that I mess with it, the better off that they are. I mean, I enjoy them. I mean, like I said, I'll do the water changes, and those are not necessarily scheduled either. I just kind of go around and I tell people, they ask, how do you? I said, a lot of it is just, for me, it boils down to what the fish room smells like, because you do get this weird, like stagnant water but it's not overpowering. But I can tell when I walk in and I'll go, okay, something is off, and I'll start changing waters. But that's about the only time that I really mess with it. Other than that, or you can see the water no longer looks like crystal clear. You can see a little bit of. I said, okay, now it's time for a change. But for the most part, that's just, I don't spend a lot of time doing maintenance.
Yeah, I do less than I used to. Like when I first got back into it, I was testing the water all the time. I was, just constantly on top of it. And just like you, I found that I don't really need to do as much. I mean, I'm not saying don't change water. I'm not saying, don't, but as time goes on, you just sort of, you watch your fish. And if you see something weird going on, then you try to address it, but hopefully you catch it in time. But again, I have every time. Maybe that'll be bad in the future. Maybe something will happen and I'll lose an entire tank. Right now, it just hasn't happened.
I'm finding when you get those type of situations, it's not really anything that we personally do. It always seems that it's the water that's coming into to the fish room that will end up being the culprit of something like that. Because I don't know, I used to not believe when people would say I can just kind of tell something was wrong with when they experienced hobbyists that would say, "Oh, just the fish were acting weird," and I was like, "How the hell would you?" I mean, they're swimming, but the more that I've kept fish, and the more that I go in there and observe, because that's the only way you're going to pick up on this stuff is by actually spending time looking at your fish. You do start picking up on little things. Okay, why are they kind of sluggish, or why are they not swimming where they normally swim? When you start seeing those changes,
or whatever,
or they're all the typical gulping for air or whatever. Those are indicators that something is wrong. But as you become an experienced hobbyist, you pick up on those subtle changes, which is real interesting. People telling me this 3 or 4 years ago, I would have looked at them like, whatever, dude. What are you, a fish whisperer? But it is true. You do start getting, especially if you're keeping the same fish. I can see where people have a business and they're turning fish over and over and over, and it's not even the same species. It's hard to pick up on those things. But us as hobbyists, we mostly, at least for me, I've always kept the same fish, till they expire. That's pretty much it. I'm not constantly trying to. Well, for one thing, it gets expensive. If you're always trying to keep up with the Jones, it could get real expensive. But I've gotten, I guess, to a point in my life where I just enjoy what I enjoy. I don't care. Everybody else can enjoy whatever they want.
Exactly.
I'm gonna do me.
Yep, I'm with you 100%. And, some of the fish I have are very long lived. Bosemani rainbows are, 8 years. There's some fish that, live a long time. So when it's something like guppies or something where you're looking at a couple of years, you don't see as much of that. But when you've had something for 3 years, 4 years, I mean, I hope to get there 5 years, 6 years, you definitely really get used to how that fish behaves and what it does and stuff. It becomes you're seeing it every day, it becomes a part of your life more. And I love guppies and live bearers, but I think when you have those really long lived ones, that you just get you just get more time with it, and you get to enjoy it longer, and you get closer to your fish.
Yeah,
which is
but even with guppies, it's real interesting. One of the things that a telltale sign for me that everything's okay is anytime I kind of reach up to the top of their tanks, if they're all kind of schooling to that area, I said, okay. When they don't do that, I'm going, okay, what's going on? Something is off. Something is not right. But for the most part, that's a pretty good indicator. If you just kind of raising your hand, you're not even trying to put something in there, and they're reacting, they're okay.
Yeah. Live bears, I mean, it seems like all the fish do that, but for some reason, the live bears that I have, the guppies and the gadeids, are like that. They are more so. They're very interested in what I'm doing all the time. Whip just said the Raphael will live to be 10 to 15 years old. And it's interesting you said that. So I hadn't seen him for a while, and I have a coconut cave in there that he's been using as a home. So I just had to today. I hadn't seen him, so I picked up the coconut cave and moved him, and he came out. I also wanted to make sure he didn't grow too big and he couldn't get out the hole of the coconut cave, because he's getting up there. And I did see him today. So there's at least one in there. I had 3. One didn't make it. He came in not looking so good, but the other 2, I don't know if I still have 2 or not, but I definitely have 1. Yeah. 10 to 15 years. That'll outlive me.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's probably one of the reasons why I don't keep some of the fish with personality, because I don't want to get attached. Live bears, it's just kind of you always have new ones that you don't. It's not the same attachment. I've seen people that have kept pet fish, and what I mean by that is like my dog's a pet. The fish are not my pets. They're fish. Don't get me wrong. I take care of them. I enjoy them, but they're not pets. A cat is a pet because there's an attachment to them. And I think that's why I don't do any of the bigger fish, because I don't want to have that, because nobody likes dealing with loss. At any level, losses, they just suck.
It does.
And so that's why I guess that's why I'm not attracted to like the big puffer fish or the big Oscars and stuff like that, because I can see somebody having a lot of attachment to that. And just, we already have a lot of things that go wrong in our lives that we don't need to add to it. That's just kind of my opinion when it comes to that. But I'm always fascinated when people have those connections. It's kind of cool to watch because there is a connection there with their fish.
Sure. Yeah. I agree. And I sort of had that. I had he was called a blue lobster, but he was a crayfish, a blue crayfish, Zoidberg. He was my buddy. Every time I went up to I actually had a 45 tall on the top of this at the time, and he was inside of there. And he always wanted to see me. Every time I went up there, he came up, to the front of the thing saying hi, and he just always wanted to see what I was doing. And that definitely hurt when he passed.
Yeah. So, but I kind of like the smaller fish. And now I'm in the process of trying to change up what I was doing in my fish room, because I have a couple of tetras and some barbs and stuff like that. But lately, I've been finding this fascination with some of the rare live bears like Goodyeats and stuff like that. And I think that's where the direction I'm going to go. I think it's more of I don't know. I'm not worried about having flashy fish. Yes, angelfish are beautiful. Discus are beautiful. There's a lot of beautiful fish out there, but I'm interested more in the conservation now. We're understanding that these are limited, and if we can do anything to try to keep these species alive, why not do that? I mean, I think that's. But then again, I don't know. That's just me getting older too, and knowing things are finite. Yeah, that could be. Because I feel the same way, and I do have Goodyeats up here, Goodyeats, whichever. I have the Zenatoka Doi Dry, and they're doing great. I got 4 of them from Alishan, and now I've got about 24 of them. They're slow. I like that. They're not as fast as guppies. It's 90 days gestation period. So, they're beautiful fish, but they're not flashy. But I feel like I'm helping. I'm doing my part to help out a little bit. I'm keeping fish that are very, very. I don't think they're. I know they're endangered in their local areas there in Mexico. I know that they're endangered at the very least, and some of them, their areas have been totally overwhelmed, and they're gone in those areas. So I like those Cares fish. I like doing that part of it, and that's sort of where I'm going as well. I want to get in that same thing. In fact, I want to get some from Skull. He wasn't able to ship them to me before it got too hot, but he's going to be Skull Aquatics. Curtis is going to be sending me some from his. Because Alishan got this batch, I can't remember who he said he got them from years and years ago. So they've all been the same that he's had for all these years. They've all came from that same little batch. So I wanted to take skulls and mix the blood, get some new ones, and then take those back to Alishan and give him some new blood for his colony. Love it, though. Love it. Jimmy's asking, does Rico still have the golden white clouds?
No, they were in my pond. They overwintered the first year. Great, did a great job. They just bloomed. They were massive. There was tons of them. And then the second year, I use a pond de-icer, a Tetra pond de-icer. It failed on me, and I didn't realize it. And it had a warranty for 3 years, and it was only the second year. And they all passed, unfortunately. And I haven't seen any. I was hoping that maybe there was some eggs, or maybe there was some of them that did survive the cold water. But, without that de-icer, I left the pump running. So there was always a section that was no ice, but it's still, the water was, frozen. It was freezing. So right now, actually, the pond is filled with guppies, which I didn't know were in there, which was awesome, because just the other day I went down. I take water lettuce. I got water lettuce from Chattanooga Ed a few years ago, and I keep it in my tanks here. But every year I take and put just a few of them outside, and they get massive. Inside they're about this big, but outside, they get dinner size, and they're like 6 inches tall, and they're just huge. And it took over the pond because I have water lilies in there too from Kelly Foreman, and it took over. So I had to pull out a bunch of that water lettuce. Well, when I did, I saw hundreds of guppy fry, just hundreds of them. So I thought the frogs had eaten the 3 that I put a male and 2 females in there. Well, no, they've been going this whole time, and there's hundreds of guppy fry. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that for the winter. I don't know if I'm going to put something in there. I don't know if I'm going to try and pull them all out. I haven't decided yet what to do. I've got to make a decision because by the end of September, in the first week of October, we'll start to see cold temperatures. So
one of the things that I found interesting, because I just recently been just went down the rabbit hole for the Goodyears, and I know several fish keepers down in Mexico that I've met through YouTube. And I started asking them, I said, hey, what's the deal? What do you know about these fish? It's interesting that in Mexico, they don't really understand that these fish are going extinct. And then in doing a little bit more investigation, well, they can't keep them either. So they're not allowed to keep them in aquariums. So it's fascinating that we can keep them here in the States. And even from, I think they've been able to reproduce the tequila Goodyear to numbers where they were able to reintroduce them back to Mexico.
Yeah.
And but I find it so fascinating that within the hobbyist community down there in Mexico, there's no awareness of the fact that these fish are in the verge of it being extinction, and that there's an effort to try to conserve them and reproduce them, which I'm trying to find out just in communications with them. Why isn't there that awareness out there?
Yeah. What's lacking? How do we get that awareness out there? Because I feel like if they knew, they would be more interested and maybe try and figure out how to keep some, legally and get around all that. When I find out things like that, I want to do my part. You know what I mean? And I feel like most people are that same way. When they find out that something in their area is endangered, they want to do something to help it. Most people. Some people don't care. Some people just like, well, how does it make me money? But some people do. Most people, I think, do care about those kind of things, especially in our hobby, especially in our community.
Yeah, and the conservation right now is just being done at the university level. Yeah. They're the ones that are doing it, but I wish they would take a page from what the community has done here in the U.S. and in Europe, because a lot of them also came from Europe. That they can see that the hobbyists can also contribute to preserving these fish. So, I've been trying to find somebody that'll lend an ear that's in the political realms down there. That look, man, if you guys would just advertise to the hobbyists that already exist down here, and bring the concept of the Cares fish to the country where they're from, I'm sure you're going to have a lot of takers that would be willing to spare an aquarium to keep these species. But we'll see what happens.
Plus, they have a lot of personality too. They're fun fish to keep, and they can be beautiful. Mine are very blue and orange. I know some other people have the blue and the red. Mine are blue and orange, and they're fun fish. They're one of my favorite fish to watch. They're the only thing in that tank except for some high fin Paleatus cories that I just recently put in there. That's the only thing in there. That's tanks for them. It's my only. Let me make sure I'm not lying. Well, no, this is just a bluegill and a couple of rosy fathead minnows that are about to age out. I bought them from a bait shop 2 years ago, and I bought 12 of them. I'm down to 2 because they're not meant to last that long. First of all, they're feeder fish, so they were never, their bloodlines aren't great stuff. But this tank, you can't even see it. The light's turned off right now. It's up there behind that plant too. That's all that's in there, and it's my only real species tank. Everything else I keep is a community tank with a bunch of different stuff, except for the 2 shrimp tanks I have here. I have 2 little 5-gallon shrimp tanks right next to me.
Yeah.
my favorite fish in my fish room it's a toss-up. One day it's the Denison barbs, because I have one, especially one Denison barb that's so they they have a lot of colors on. There's some pink, there's some red, there's some yellow, but one of them has got an emerald green head, and it's just beautiful. I don't see too many others with that color of green on it, and my other ones have a little hint of it, but this one I have, and he's the biggest one of them, just beautiful green color that's I can't even describe the color. It's almost iridescent. It's just such a neon green color. Beautiful, beautiful. So either that Denison barb or my Bosemani rainbows are my favorites in my room. Love the Bosemani. Rainbow fish are just fun. They're just fun to keep, and they're not for everybody. They're dumb fish. Everybody says that, how dumb they are, but I love watching them. I love feeding them. They're like sharks. They're just jumping up at the water and cool fish. Plus they're navy blue and orange, which are the Chicago Bears colors. So ties in there.
Your Goodians are also that color, aren't they? So they look like little Bosmanis.
Yeah. Not as dark, but they definitely have the same color scheme.
So you're keeping bearfish.
Yeah. All my fish are bear. What are you talking about? Fish?
Well, Rico, we've been on for I think there's somebody else that's going to be streaming pretty soon. I'm not sure. But I also need to start getting ready for work. But I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join me today. This has been real fun. I know we didn't talk a lot of fish. We talked about a lot of other stuff. But then again, that's the one disclaimer that I give people in the beginning, is that these conversations are just exactly that. They're a conversation that I want to share with people if they're interested in experiencing them. But it's not. It's more, getting to know the person. That's why I like having these streams. Again, just like you, this is real selfish because it's really for me. I don't know if my guests are taking anything away from it, but I am. And I'm really enjoying them. Like, this is the 5th one that I've done. I did one in Spanish. I want to go back to doing a couple of more in Spanish. I've already have a couple other people that said yes. But it's just really neat. It's an opportunity to be able to have that conversation with somebody that might not be your neighbor, and you don't have an access to be able to see them or meet them or that. So, but thank you, sir, for spending this time with me.
It was a blast. I knew it was going to be. I always enjoy watching your streams. I watched that one with Cora Dorable the other day. That was very cool, getting to know more about her. And, just like you said, I love these types of streams because we have tons of streams in our community that are fish centric, but there's not very many that are just people getting to know, because I'm not just a fish keeper, right? There's a whole bunch more about me. And I think when you get to know more about people, misunderstandings happen less often, right? Because I feel like there's been a lot of misunderstandings within our community, and people don't like this other person. There's all that stuff that a lot of that goes away once you get to know somebody a little bit more. So I think these types of streams are important. Keep it up. I had a blast on it, and I maybe come back again sometime in the future.
Oh, definitely. I don't want this to be the last time we get to speak either.
I hope that you can make it to the Keystone Clash next year. I really do.
I'm looking forward to it. I already told my wife. My wife is all on board. I plan everything with her. I mean, that's just our relationship. So, but she supports me. She supports me 100%, and she looks at it as an adventure to go see something different. So, yeah, I'm very fortunate that way.
I don't get to go to too many of the other events, so that's pretty much the only event I do. Nice, Greg. Greg just dropped you a super chat. That's very nice.
Thank you.
And I love seeing that too. I love seeing that you are monetized. So congratulations and get on that. And thanks everybody for watching. And I was gonna tell you who my focus on was tonight, but I actually had a cancellation, and I'm waiting on a response from somebody. So I don't even know if I'm going to do a focus on tonight or not.
Well, for those of you that have been wanting to be on the focus on, I was able to get on because of a cancellation. So take advantage of it. reach out to Rico if you really want to be on there. It's fun. I like talking to people, so that's why I consider it fun.
Again, I know for a fact if you make it to the clash next year, we're gonna just have so much fun just hanging out and talking. I bet you it'll be the first time you stayed up just talking to somebody till 2 or 3 in the morning in a long time, because it'll be fun. See you guys.
All right. Thank you, guys.